WWE's average match times have taken a pounding over the years. 60-minute main events were the norm on Vince McMahon's Senior's Watch, but mainstream American wrestling evolved beyond this point a long time ago. Now, the average Universal or World title match is lucky to break 20 minutes. The company still deliver plenty of in-ring epics, but the glacially paced Billboard toppers of old have largely gone the way of the dinosaurs. It therefore shouldn't come as a surprise to learn that most of WWE's longest matches took place decades ago, but rest assured, while the old WWF dominates, the modern era is represented. For variety's sake, we've excluded Royal Rumbles and Iron Man matches, but everything else is fair game. I'm Andy from WhatCulture.com, and these are the 10 longest matches in WWE history. Number 10, at 53 minutes, Bruno Sammartino vs Nikolai Volkov from March 1974. Big Bad Bruno occupies several spots on our list, which shouldn't come as a surprise. He was the company's biggest star at a time when main event runtimes were at an all-time high, and starred in many an epic title showdown, including this Madison Square Garden clash. A near hour-long battle between good and evil, it pitted the everyman fan favourite against a feared Russian menace, but there was no concrete winner. The bout came to an end when Volkov and Sammartino ran out of time, hitting the building's curfew. But their issues were resolved in a big match just a few weeks later, with Bruno pinning his opponent in another MSG battle. Number 9, at 55 minutes and 45 seconds, Dean Ambrose vs Luke Harper from Extreme Rules 2015. Now this match wasn't exactly 55 minutes of pure uninterrupted ring time, but regardless of how much of it we actually saw, it technically did run for close to an hour. Ambrose vs Harper kicked off at the start of the show. They soon brawled to the back, then left the building in an SUV. This forced WWE to cut to the next match, but they eventually returned, concluding their Chicago street fight almost an hour into the pay-per-view. The 45 minutes of dead time might make this a cop-out as we only saw 10 minutes of actual wrestling, but it's still one of WWE's longest bouts from bell to bell. Number 8, at 55 minutes and 49 seconds, Shawn Michaels vs John Cena from April 2007. Taking place 3 weeks after their fantastic WrestleMania 23 match, John Cena and Shawn Michaels came together in an awesome Raw rematch that somehow bettered their pay-per-view encounter. This marathon compares favourably with anything that HBK delivered during his fantastic second WWE run. Sure, they stalled a lot early on, but the pace picked up as the clock ticked away, and it was full of smart, limb-based psychology. By the time it had finished, few fans could believe that they'd been watching the same match for close to an hour, and it may just be the most impressive singles match in Raw history. Number 7, at 60 minutes, Bob Backlund vs Don Morocco from August 1981. Famed for his extraordinary conditioning, Bob Backlund was a celebrated amateur wrestler prior to entering the professional ranks, which explains his ability to go all out in these hour-long title matches. This one took place more than 3 years into a world title reign that eventually stretched to a ridiculous 2,135 days. Backlund and Morocco worked a slow, methodical format typical of the era, and like countless other old-school main events, it went to a 60-minute time limit draw. Old Bob retained his title without actually pinning Morocco, and his reign continued deep into 1983 when he finally fell to the Iron Sheik. Also at 60 minutes and also at number 7, Bob Backlund vs Greg Valentine from February 1979. These two fellas wrestled each other dozens of times throughout their careers, and while this match may not be their most famous, it's definitely the longest. Time limit draws were a hallmark of Vince McMahon Sr.'s booking style, and this was one of them. They allowed the champion to retain without making the challenger look bad, and while it's hard to imagine us modern fans and our low attention spans having the patience for such grueling encounters, it worked perfectly for the time period. It's a three-way tie at number 7 because here's another 60-minute match, this time between Bruno Sammartino and Dr. Bill Miller from July 1965. While not exactly the most well-known opponent on Bruno Sammartino's resume, Dr. Bill Miller was an important rival for the long-time champion throughout the 60s. Now this match's 60-minute runtime suggests another time limit draw, but no, Bruno was actually victorious here. It was sweet revenge for an incident taking place a few weeks prior, during which Miller legitimately winded Bruno in a tag match, prompting Sammartino to tag out, then rush back in and bloody his opponent up. In the end, Miller just couldn't topple his foe, and it was another legacy-building win for Sammartino. And after a freeway tie at number 7, it's number 4. At 65 minutes and 5 seconds, Pedro Morales vs Bruno Sammartino from September 1972. Vince McMahon Sr. was famous for doctoring match lengths in the 60s and 70s, so this bout, along with all the other ancient matches on our list, must be taken with a pinch of salt. Regardless, whatever the runtime, this was a huge encounter between two decorated world champions and came close to being the highest drawing outdoor show in wrestling history, with 22,508 fans inside New York's Shea Stadium. It took place deep into Morales' 1,000-plus day title reign, but alas, there was no winner. The building curfew prompted yet another draw, and the Puerto Rican's reign remained intact. Number 3. Bruno Sammartino vs Gorilla Monsoon from May 1964 at 70 minutes long. Though primarily known as an announcer, Gorilla Monsoon was an accomplished worker in his day, and he was always hugely popular in New York City, where he fought for the WWF title on several occasions. This was his and Sammartino's 7th title match. Bruno had won 6 of those, with the sole loss coming via disqualification, and this turned out to be their most grandiose battle yet. It became the first draw of their rivalry as soon as it hit the 70-minute mark, but the duo would wrestle each other many more times throughout their careers, with draws, countouts and DQs commonplace. Number 2. At 81 minutes, Bruno Sammartino vs Waldo von Erich from August 1964. 53 years, 5 months and 28 days. That's how long this match stood as the longest in WWE history for. Until our number 1 came along, it seemed unfathomable that anything would ever top this one from its lofty perch, but here we are. Bruno and Waldo's record has bitten the dust. They worked for well over an hour in Madison Square Garden, and guess what? It was another bloody draw, wasn't it? Still, the fact that they were able to go for so long speaks volumes of their pacing skills. While no longer the outright longest match in WWE history, it remains the lengthiest singles bout, and it's hard to see that ever changing. Number 1. At a whopping 146 minutes 55 seconds, the Gauntlet match from Raw in February 2018. While many fans consider gauntlets like this a series of multiple singles matches rather than a singular entity, WWE market these bouts with the latter in mind, which is why this near 2-hour test of endurance takes top spot. The runtime suggests a slog, but no, this was outstanding. The 2018 Elimination Chamber participants dominated Raw's runtime, and it didn't drag at all. Seth Rollins was the standout. He pinned both Roman Reigns and John Cena during his 65 minutes in the ring, but it all boiled down to The Miz vs Braun Strowman. After much destruction, the monster put his cowardly foe away, delivering a satisfying conclusion to this epic encounter. This runtime made it the ballsiest WWE match in years. Fair play to the company, because the risk paid off.
So, thanks for watching. Please feel free to click on any of these things around my head, or something terrible might happen to the dog. Too sweet me, bro. Traitor. Traitor.